Oh, hello and welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Strategy Show presented by Sleeper. Dave Loughran _D, joined by Adam Scherer, Ship My Money DFS, breaking down a little 12-game action on a Tuesday morning. What's good, brother? How you feeling today? I think I know, but how you feeling?
I'm feeling exhausted because I couldn't stop doing best ball drafts last night.
Yeah, it happens. You know what else happens? Just every single time we do a show, whoever's facing Seattle along with the Seattle pitcher is like top 5 and top 2 pitcher probability again.
Yeah, it's been the theme for like a week and a half.
It's ever since these teams faced each other 2 series ago, I feel like every time we do this, but
at least they came through yesterday, because in that previous series, it was a lot of like, oh, they're the best pitcher on the slate, and then they were just getting torched.
Yeah, it's tough. Hey, the best ball draft sucked you in till 4 a.m.
Yes.
Oh, man. I hope you got some good teams. I know we were talking about it a little bit. You're going with some obscure type stuff. I love what you're doing because I'm doing the same thing where you're just playing for the highest ceiling. You have to.
Yeah, I did like that team I sent you. It ended up being pretty solid. Yeah, I had some good teams last night. I don't think I had anything that stood out as like anything I loved.
Yeah. By the way,
I randomly was getting a lot of Chargers. Like, I was just thinking the other day, I didn't have as much Charger stacks as I would want. And I think yesterday I got like 3 separate, like Eckler plus Allen plus like Quentin Johnston with Herbert.
The Quentin Johnson one to me is weird because it's like they need that type of player. But he's going relatively early. So
I barely have him other than when I have a Herbert stack, I miss Mike Williams.
Sure. And I actually have a decent amount of him because I look at it like this. Could he survive in this offense and pay off that ADP without an injury? I think it's less likely than other people do. I still think, Eckler, Williams, Allen, the list, but those guys are always hurt anyway. So if any of them get hurt, it's going to open wide up.
Yeah. The reason I don't really have Johnston, like the ceiling is definitely there, but he's in that price range where I'm taking Jordan Addison over him. I'm taking Dotson. I'm taking Cooks. Like, I think there's somebody else that I like that I'm completely blanking on in that range. Like, I actually like receivers there. And then it's just like him where it's like, okay, well, if I have a stack, I'll take him.
Also, I just looked for Twitter for a good minute up on my tabs and couldn't find it.
I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday. So not only is it a different color than you're looking for, the logo, it looks very similar when you're just glancing through to the Athletic logo.
Yeah.
So not exaggerating, like 3 to 5 times yesterday, I would look at like my tabs, be like, when did I X out of Twitter? X out of what I thought was the Athletic and open Twitter.
I love it though, because people get so upset over the dumbest shit. And they're so upset about this. It's hilarious to me. Like, all right, I found it. No big deal. Within 2 days, I won't be looking for the bird anymore.
Right.
And I'm already fine.
Right. I cannot fathom why people care at all about the name of this company.
Because people just look for other people to hate, right?
Like, I hate change, and this is too far for me.
Like KJ said, you shouldn't love it, Lavi. Twitter is absolute trash now, and we haven't even hit football season. It works the same for me as it did before, other than I'm recommended some wild stuff once in a while.
I have not noticed a single difference on Twitter in the last, like, I don't know, other than that one period where like I wasn't getting any new followers and I wasn't getting any engagements. Other than that, like 1 week stretch, like, I don't know, ever. There's more spam bots now, but they're mostly muted and blocked anyway.
Yeah, all of them just go into the spam block, like the see more replies.
Anyway. We've talked about it before. The only real difference I notice is I'll tweet something, I'll get an immediate hidden reply, and I'm like, oh, good, I already pissed somebody off. And then I look, and it's just like some sports betting account.
Right. Yeah, I mean, KJ, look, the algorithm is, don't get me wrong, it's wild depending on what you look at. My recommendation, real quick, is just create, if you're trying to look at others, if you're looking at sports on one thing and you're looking at like politics, because if you're looking at politics on Twitter and all of this divisive stuff, you're just going to get hammered with it. Create another account that you don't post on if you want to peruse that stuff. Because for me, if I scroll through my feed, it's mostly sports.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another one. Like, people People say that, and it's probably, I mean, obviously, like if that's what you're using Twitter for, like, yeah, that would suck if like you're like, well, I want sports, but I also want to engage in whatever else, whatever other bullshit. Like for me, my entire timeline is just people that I follow.
Yeah. By the way, I don't get any spam DMs anymore, which is weird. I used to get.
I was actually just thinking that because I almost
used to get
said
more than I do now.
Right. I almost said also the constant spam DMs. Then I was thinking, like, I feel like I haven't gotten one in like weeks.
Yeah. Just accept that Elon Musk is not a good guy and he's not a particularly bad guy. He's just a guy that probably a narcissist. But as
probably
people ride for people that they never met and they never will know, like politically and all that stuff. Let it go. I promise your life's going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Just let it go.
You and I were talking about it yesterday. Like, I can't imagine how some people handle the things in their life that actually matter emotionally.
They don't.
Given
That's
like the amount of energy they can give to Elon fucking Musk. Positive or negative, either way.
Right. Yeah. Who cares? COVID changed me in that sense. Like throughout COVID, I just kind of went like, why do I care? Because you know where I stood on all that, but It was like, I'm not defending this guy or hating. None of it matters because, and I hate to be like, oh, I don't have an impact. I'm not like that. You know what I mean? I'm not Josh Engelman in the sense where it's just like nothing matters. And you know,
yeah, I was kind of the opposite. Cause like COVID, one, I didn't have anything to do. And two, because of my mom being high risk and me moving back to her house, I literally couldn't do anything for like the entire year.
No,
so
I mean, after it blew over, I saw everything that went down. You know what I mean? Like after I could soak all of that in and go, oh, this is how everything really works.
Right. Okay. I was going to say during COVID, I definitely kind of got more into the like being vocal and like a lot of external stuff pissing me off. But that's also now why I'm just like, I can't imagine going through my life the way that like I went through that 1 year.
That's what I mean. You look back and you go, it's not worth it. Anyway, We got 12 games to talk about now. I hope you guys are having a great morning. I hope your fingers aren't sore for rage responding on Twitter to random people, you know?
Especially if they were, calling Ellie De La Cruz average.
I hope you're having a good day. I know I am. And you even say stuff like we just said and people get pissed off at that. That's how you know that you're not wrong. Like
we're at the point where you can literally it's just like words. Elon Musk, somebody's mad. Like you don't even have to put words before or after it.
Yeah.
Somebody's mad and somebody just got rock hard.
And then someone gets mad at the guy that's mad at Elon Musk. Because they're mad at Elon Musk. It's great. Right. But yeah, man. I don't know. We got 12 games to talk about. And should be a fun slate for tonight. You got 3 of those like 6 p.m. type games we won't talk about. We'll hit on all the 7 p.m. and later. You ready to dive into this?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. Oh, and as always, guys, glad to have you here as well. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. See if we can rip this north of 50 out of the gate. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and leave a comment down below if you're listening after the fact. You guys also know. Einsteinium, I do, and I have for a while. But all of our stuff is in podcast form. If you're not on podcast, if podcasts are a preferred way to listen for you, maybe you don't have YouTube Premium and you want to listen with your phone off, you go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, whatever you do on your Android phones, any podcast platform, we got you covered. So go hit us up in podcast form. Leave a rating review too as well, and subscribe if you haven't done so. All right, New York Mets at New York Yankees. Verlander, Domingo Germán. Just looking at top 2 pitcher probabilities for this one. Not a whole lot that stands out. I mean, Germán on a 12-game slate is at 9%. That's not bad. Verlander's right in the same ballpark, around 9.8%, 7.9% ownership. Germán getting much less ownership, but you've got Verlander north of 9K right now, and we can talk about some of these other pitchers that are more expensive later. Pablo Lopez, Blake Snell on top of that. Where do these guys, in these 8K, low 9K ranges settle into where you rank them today?
Not overly appealing, especially in the case of Domingo Germán. 8,300, so it's not like you're getting a dirt cheap Germán. It's not a good matchup for him against the Mets. He has been fine this year. 25% strikeout percentage, 4.11 xFIP. got to get him mixed up a lot in my head with Severino. And so, like, as I was reading his numbers, I'm like, man, when the hell did that happen? But Herman's been solid. Severino's been garbage. But you are getting a quality Mets lineup. They have a lot of hitters who just aren't hitting as well this year as they did last year, or as they typically do. But they're still known commodities. They're still good hitters. They are getting a substantial park upgrade going into Yankee Stadium. They are relatively difficult to strike out. The Mets active roster has the 9th highest WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year, just a 20.9% K percentage, 184 ISO. And keep in mind, ISO is not a park adjusted stat. So that's even with their home games being in a pitcher-friendly park. Now they're going into Yankee Stadium. Still only a 4.4 implied run total, but on a slate of this size, relatively difficult to get to Herman. We have him projected for 3% ownership, 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Verlander looks a little bit better on the other side. 9,100 is more expensive than the numbers he has produced so far this year warrant. Only a 20.5% strikeout percentage, 4.5 xFIP, but he does project to be better over the rest of the season. He did have a bunch of difficult matchups to start the year. Then he had an injury. So not as big a sample size as you have on a lot of pitchers at this time in the year. And you're getting a weak Yankees lineup that still doesn't have Aaron Judge. Looks like Bowers should be back or should be in the lineup, but it's still a below average Yankees lineup. Their active roster has a 92 WRC plus, 22.5% K percentage. So between the two, I prefer Verlander just for the matchup, even though his numbers haven't been as good year to date as Domingo Germán's. But overall, they're both sort of just, low-owned contrarian tournament plays.
Looking at the top stacks tool, and we had a question earlier that I missed, and I meant to get to that from Brian. Are there any sign-up promos? Yeah, 50% off all of our tools, dude. All of our tools are 50% off. Links in the description. Jordan can throw them in the chat. You want to do the lineup generator, or you want to do all of our tools for every sport, or just one sport for a week or a month. It doesn't matter how you want to play it. Your first week or first month of any package that you want are 50% off. Links down there in the description and in chat. But yeah, you pull at the top stacks tool. I mean, this game right now has a total of 9. So, it is at Yankee Stadium. It's not like Domingo Germán has just been rock solid throughout the entirety of this season either. But top stack probability, 5% to the Mets. Take, in context, it is a 12-game slate. And the Yankees are down there at 2.4% today, Adam.
Yeah, neither team is particularly high likelihood to succeed, but it is a good park for home runs. Domingo Germán, mentioned the strikeout stuff's been good. He has a 25% K percentage to lefties, 26% to righties. Only a 149 expected ISO allowed to righties, but 191 to lefties. It's not been a ton of production overall. Still only a 312 expected WOBA, but that is interesting when you have a $4,300 Brandon Nimmo in Yankee Stadium. Lindor at 4,800. Jeff McNeil is essentially free at 3,500. Vogelbach is free, and so is Brett Beatty, 2,200 and 25 respectively. So at the very least, there's like a 2-man stack, 3-man stack. There is a lot of home run upside there. On the other side, Verlander hasn't given up a ton of power this year. 141 expected ISO to lefties, 125 to righties, and you don't have a lot of power in the Yankees lineup. I don't really even know who I would single out from this team as like my favorite hitter. Stanton's got the most power, but it's also righty-righty. He strikes out a lot. He is 5K. I would probably go Bowers if he's leading off at 2,700 as my favorite spot to get to. Maybe Rizzo at 4,200. But to me, the Mets side, even if you're not full stacking them, because Germán is a pretty solid pitcher, the Yankees do have a good bullpen. Even if you're not full stacking them, I do think the home run upside makes 2-mans and 3-mans really interesting.
Let's talk about this next game, Colorado and Washington. You're good. It's sitting at a 9.5 run total right now in Washington. Look, Austin Gomber, we know what his deal is. We also know what Trevor Williams' deal is. Neither of these teams are particularly good. The Nationals don't strike out a ton. The Rockies, on the other hand, just a bad baseball team. But Williams, 17% strikeout rate on the season. He's sitting with a 4.98 xFIP. The numbers aren't necessarily pretty at all. Do you think at 6K that there's any legitimacy? And we'll look at the Sims tool. We'll look at the pre-contest Sims and see where this pre-sim or pre-contest ROI comes up on for Williams. But do you think there is any merit to getting a little bit of him today at 6K because it's the Rockies, or are there just going to be better options?
I mean, if by a little bit you mean like you're playing 150 lineups and you get 5%, sure.
Yeah, he's at 3% right now.
Right. Yeah, like is he in a good enough spot he can show up in a random lineup here and there? Yeah, but it's still not somebody you're going out of your way to get to. It is a bad Colorado team, obviously, but 11% K percentage to lefties, 196 expected ISO. The strikeout numbers against righties have actually been good this year at 23.5%, but he's still allowed an expected ISO north of 200. You're probably going to get a pretty balanced Colorado lineup. The projected lineup I'm looking at has Profar, McMahon, Jones, and Castro from the left side. So 4 lefties, 5 righties. At 6K, like, yeah, he's playable. But also, when you have this many games on a slate, you're just going to have so many cheap offenses you can get to that a lot of times you're not going to need to pay down to that shitty 6K pitcher where you're just praying for a good start.
How about the bats in this game? Understandably, Austin Gomber is not somebody that's going to strike guys out either. 15% strikeout rate on the season. He does have to pitch, at Coors Field in around half of his games. Away from home this season, his strikeout rate is sitting at 16%, so it hasn't really significantly improved. Still a 509 xFIP outside of Coors. 1.8 home runs on the road this year as well. Do you have any interest in Nats bats today at a discount?
Yeah, they're showing up third in stack score again today. So they were first yesterday. And on a side note, that was some of the most absurd ownership I can ever remember seeing in MLB DFS. CJ Abrams was 32% owned in the big $15 on DraftKings. Keeper Ruiz was like 25%. Lane Thomas was like 20. That was unbelievably high ownership. And I hope it's a sign that like everybody playing MLB DFS now was just like straight up crunching lineups and throwing them in, because that would be a lot of fun. But it was crazy ownership. Like, we had Abrams projected to be one of the highest owned players at like 16%, and he was 32. But aside from that, I mean, they still look good here. Gomber hasn't been good in Coors Field, out of Coors Field. It hasn't mattered. It doesn't matter what side of the plate you hit from. 211 expected ISO with a 357 expected WOBA to righties. He's been much worse against lefties. 434 expected WOBA, 304 expected ISO. Lane Thomas looks fine at 4,800. The rest of the team is very cheap. Joey Meneses, Stone Garrett from the right side. Keeper Ruiz switch hits. Abrams lefty. But as I just mentioned, that hasn't really mattered for Gomber. So yeah, the matchup plus the salaries make the Nats look good.
How about Rocky bats? 203x ISO versus righties for Trevor Williams, 196 expected ISO to lefties. Of course, 363 WOBA, 363 x WOBA to lefties, 333 to righties. So it hasn't just been power for Trevor Williams, and everything is put in play.
Yeah, and lefties are where you're going to look first, just because the strikeout percentage against righties is more than double what it is against lefties. But he does give up power to both sides of the plate. Ryan McMahon stands out as just a good play. The Rockies offense as a whole is very bad, so I think it's easy to kind of just overlook McMahon. But he's been one of the better hitters in terms of hard contact percentage in baseball this year. He's got a 200 expected ISO against right-handed pitching since the start of last season. So far this year, it's at 223. He also has a 223 actual ISO. His expected numbers are actually like identical to his expected numbers. 363 expected WOBA, 223 expected ISO, 364 WOBA, 223 ISO. So Ryan McMahon does look good. 30% strikeout percentage against righties. I love taking guys like that against a pitcher like Williams, who is just going to negate the fact that they can't make contact and let them hit it hard. So McMahon looks really good. CJ Cron looks fine. Diaz as a catcher is fine. Nolan Jones is fine. So, it's kind of a battle between a team that can't hit for the most part and a pitcher that can't pitch. But we still have Colorado coming in with a 4% chance of being the top stack, 4% aggregate ownership, middle of the pack in stack score. So I like the Nats as a full stack more, but Ryan McMahon is my favorite individual hitter in this game.
We still don't have a line for Atlanta, Boston. You got Charlie Morton. We know that he's going for Atlanta. Do we see Pivetta start this game today?
So I'm seeing it right now as Bernardino probably opening, followed by Pivetta.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, let's work under the assumption that Pivetta is the long reliever here. And we know that Charlie Morton is starting. I mean, he's the probable pitcher for Atlanta. But it's Atlanta, it's Boston. We don't have a total yet. My guess is it's not going to be that high, even though it's clearly a great Atlanta offense. They should have a decent enough implied total here. What do you make of pitching in this spot? Any Morton and any Pivetta, just because normally I wouldn't even bother asking you this, but he is 6,600. It's just such a brutal matchup.
Yeah, brutal matchup here. You still get the risk of, him being the long guy, and what exactly does that mean? Now, the last time he was in this position, he was facing Oakland. He scored 42 DraftKings points. He cost Josh $100,000. He struck out 13 guys, but that was Oakland. I don't really see the need on a 12-game slate to be rolling the dice on Nick Pivetta against the Braves out of the bullpen.
Morton?
Sure. Good pitcher, tough matchup, tough park. Overall this year, 25% strikeout percentage, 3.9 xFIP. He's getting no ownership. So it's kind of just a tournament play. The reason he's getting no ownership is that it is a relatively tough matchup with Boston, but you also just have, good pitching and better matchups in this price range. You mentioned Kirby against the Twins, but you also have Alex Cobb for less against Oakland. You have Burns against Cincinnati. You have Snell against Pittsburgh, Lopez against Seattle. So those guys are all pulling ownership away from Morton. He's fine as a large field tournament play, but not somebody I'd expect to take a lot of.
So in our tools at Stochastic, like top pitcher, top stack, ownership, all that stuff, we do have Pivetta in right now, which makes sense, especially because we need to get these runs of ownership and all the tools in before the strategy show. We have the Braves with the second highest top stack probability on the slate today, Adam. 7.8%, coming in behind only the Boston Red Sox. What do you...
So I was going to say, we don't have a line on this game. So
yeah.
So ignore what I was just saying about Morton's ownership. I think we just have a bad, assumption.
That Red Sox implied total we have is not right.
Right. So Morton's projection is going to come up, which means our ownership projection is going to come up, and his top two percentage is going to come up. I still think I'm going to go back to what I was originally saying before I looked at the top pitchers tool. I think he's fine. I think he's you're getting 40% ownership to Burns against the Reds at 9,200. You're probably going to see that kind of just move down to 25-30% and Morton get up 15-20% somewhere in there. So I do think Morton's fine. It is a tough matchup, tough park, but right now the tools are off regarding the Red Sox. For the Braves, clearly they're going to look good. Fenway is a good park for scoring. The Braves are the Braves. There's not a ton to say there. Pavetta's allowed a 206 expected ISO to righties this year, 187 to lefties. So while the strikeout numbers have been excellent, he's still giving up power, and this is a team that certainly can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, from both sides of the plate. A lot of powerful righties as well. North of 200 x ISO for Pivetta versus righties, as you pointed out. That's a pretty interesting spot. So my guess is that they stay pretty close to the top of the ranks in the top stacks tool, even once we get a line.
I don't think there's anything weird about the Braves being up there. It's just that the Red Sox should not be, and Charlie Morton's not going to be 0.5% owned.
Before you take a sip of that much needed coffee, although you're performing as always, as usual, man. I mean, you're a natural. So
yeah, I'm a pro.
You're a pro, even if you're tired. Before you take a sip of that coffee, any interest in Boston bats?
Not really. I mean, it's a good park, so there's that. But Morton's just a good pitcher. 110 expected ISO, 2 to lefties, 200 to righties, only a 20% K percentage to righties. So, if you were just singling out a hitter from that, you're looking at Turner and Duvall. But of course, you're not going to just refuse to play Yoshida, Devers, Verdugo. But if you're going to Boston, I think it's just, hey, this is a good offense that probably isn't going to get much ownership once everything is adjusted. But the Braves are clearly the preferred side. And also, I have a lot of practice doing shows equally as tired and also extremely hungover. So this doesn't feel that bad.
I know. Doing show, I don't do it anymore. I've learned from my mistake. Doing shows hungover, Sundays, during COVID, where it was still, I was probably drinking to excess, and you'd come on a Sunday morning, people wouldn't know it, but boy, did I not feel well sometimes.
Oh yeah. The worst
it's not worth it, man. It's hard.
The worst for me, I don't even know if I think it was at Awesemo. I think it was after Fan Voice, but it was so a while ago. I had the same Saturday morning show I do now, but it was with EMAC, and we were doing it 9 or 10. And he made it his life's mission because he knew how bad I'd feel every Saturday morning. And he made it his life's mission to just draw out the ad reads and try and just make my life as miserable as he could.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it sucks. But from an analysis standpoint like yours, not easy at all. I will say from a hosting standpoint where you have to like have clarity and drive the show, and like a 3-man show on the Deeper Dive was basically a 2-hour show, and you're just constantly moving in different directions. It just like it's so easy to just get lost in everything. Like, what am I doing? I don't miss that at all. But
Steven Leibowitz said Pavetta's season stats are probably skewed from when he started in relief. Much different velo up, sort of. Right now, if he's going to throw 4, 5, 6 innings out of the bullpen, that's the same as starting. Like, your velo being up in relief is when you're pitching an inning or two and you can go max effort. If he's throwing the same number of innings as when he starts, he's just starting in the second inning. He should be viewed as the same pitcher as when he starts.
Zach Greinke, Aaron Savali. Greinke might not have a strikeout tonight.
Yeah.
He just might not have a strikeout in this game. It wouldn't show.
Do you know what the line is?
On strikeouts?
I'm gonna guess it's like
it's got to be 2.5.
Yeah.
It's got to be 2.5.
I didn't know if maybe would get a 1.5, but my guess was
crazy.
My guess was also 2.5.
If it's a 1.5, I would probably I would take the over. But it's probably 2.5 juice to the under. Yeah, 2.5 minus 145.
Yeah.
If it's 1.5, the over is just going to get absolutely pummeled.
Well, say unless it's like 1.5, minus
190.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But once it hits minus 2, whatever, they're just moving it to 2.5.
Right.
So yeah, 2.5. Savali at 5.5, under 5.5 is minus 130. We don't have to talk about Zach Greinke here. I know he's cheap, but still. What about Aaron Savali though?
Yeah, Savali looks good. Good price tag at 7,200. Good matchup. 21.5% ownership. Again, keep in mind that the ownership numbers that we're mentioning on the show are off just because Morton's not getting any, but directionally it should still be correct. Like, there's 5 pitchers getting double-digit ownership. Savali is one of them. And at 7,200, he's probably not going to be affected that much by Morton being corrected because Morton is $2,100 more. But Savali just looks good here. It's a good matchup against KC. He is fine as a pitcher. 19% strikeout percentage, 4.6 xFIP this year. He missed a lot of the season though, so you're not talking about a huge sample size. He's made 11 starts. Last year, he had a much higher strikeout percentage. He projects to have, be around 21, 22% rest of season. So in this spot at 7,200, it just makes sense to get to him against a very weak Kansas City squad. Dead last in WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year at 83. 24.6% K percentage is, I believe, the third highest behind Minnesota. Yeah, third highest behind Minnesota and Seattle. They don't have the power that either of those teams have. So, good pitcher's park. 3.5 implied run total. Savali looks good.
Yo, listen to this. Jordan, throw Shams Sharania's tweet up on the screen. USC All-American Bronny James collapsed on the court Monday and had a cardiac arrest.
Oh, shit.
He's taken to the hospital and is now in stable condition and now no longer in the ICU.
Wow.
Dude had a cardiac arrest.
That shit scares me. Like, when athletes are just playing basketball or playing soccer or whatever, and they just collapse, that probably bothers me more than anything health related.
Yeah, and you're at high risk of it now
because of all the basketball and soccer I play.
No, I'm joking. You went over your head. Come on, think.
It's too early, man.
Think. What's the conspiracy theory? No.
Oh, got you. Okay. Yeah, I was not going to get there in a long time.
Now you got there.
I thought you were just calling me fat and telling me I
didn't. No, I wouldn't do that, dude. Yeah, because you're peak athletic form and you're at risk of
I thought you were just you're at high risk now if you do anything athletic.
Yeah, do the Caddyshack eye roll.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. But that's crazy, man. I agree with you. Seeing that type of stuff, it's what is the kid, 17 years old? What is he, 18 years old?
Yeah.
Right?
Something like that.
18 years old? Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, that's wild.
Anyway.
That is not, so when you made it clear you were about to take a break to go off topic, I was not expecting anything serious and certainly wasn't expecting that.
I had to bring that up though, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's insane.
By the way, did you know DeMar Hamlin, and I'm so happy he's doing better, is minus 285 to win comeback player of the year?
Didn't he win it last year without coming back?
No, there was just those
People just wanted it.
Those goofballs that like voted for him to.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was like, I know I remember something about that and thinking it was insane.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that he's going to return the football, right? Especially after that terrifying thing that we saw on national television, like in a primetime game. But minus 285.
Well, no, okay. So one, there's not that many players coming back from anything.
No, but you have to come back and play good football. I
think in this case, like,
why?
So okay,
sympathy awards. If it's a sympathy award, then I'm all for it.
No. I'm so like, let's say Javonte Williams comes back and like runs for 2,200 yards or something off of his ACL, then he should win. But like, let's say the guys that are coming back from normal injuries like ACLs just all have like normal seasons. I think you could make a case that DeMar Hamlin simply being on a football field playing football, assuming he's not like, the worst player in the league, or like assuming he continues to like be on the field, can get the award.
Yeah. So, right. No, understood. And I'm just saying at that point, it's just the participation trophy.
But it's not, because like if all the ACL guys just have normal seasons and Hamlin has like a normal season, it should go to Hamlin. He had a different injury.
But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, somebody will probably have a really good year.
I'm just saying minus 285 is wild. Again, I don't. Who cares? I'm not betting on this. I just saw it and I was like,
well, and it's the thing too is also like, is minus 285 crazy in the sense that like he just shouldn't? If like robots were choosing who wins the award, he wouldn't be minus 285. Probably. When you're factoring in who's voting for this award, though, minus 285 makes a ton of sense.
Oh, I'm not saying the odds
like it's not a bad line. It's not a bad line.
I'm not saying the odds are wrong.
Right.
I'm saying that it just shows, how much of a subjective award it really is. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. But yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think it's wrong. Shit, dude, I'm surprised he's not minus 700 at this point.
Right.
But
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, people were trying to give it to him last year.
I know. It's crazy. But it'll be cool to see him back on the field and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong.
As an aside, yeah, obviously it'd be great to have him back. As an aside, like as a professional athlete, where like, you're super competitive, you put in all this work, that your peers are doing the same thing. It would have to, like, let's say somehow that movement succeeded and DeMar Hamlin got the comeback player of the year without coming back. It would kind of have to like piss you off, wouldn't it? Like if you're the player. It's like somebody just
obviously, dude.
It's like somebody just like walking up and it's just like somebody giving you unasked for charity.
Right. Yeah.
At the expense of somebody else that deserves it.
Well, and then, I mean, the award's already kind of dumb at this point anyway, but then it just totally, entirely negates the purpose of the award. Get rid of it at that point.
Right. Well, yeah, that too. I was just thinking like on an individual level, like
for sure.
I feel like it would be like, oh, like thank the, nice gesture. Thanks, whatever. But like, you don't deserve it at that point. Right. You deserve it this year.
Right. Are you putting that in your living room? No.
Right. You're like, you deserve it this year when you get back on the field.
Well, you don't, but
I mean, or like you, no, you do.
I get your point. All right. Let's talk Kansas. You hit Savali. Do you like bats for this one against Greinke or against Savali?
Wait, is Hamlin a fourth string player? Because he was on the field.
No, he was on the field, but he was not. That was the point I was making.
I just assumed he was one of their starters.
Well, let me ask you this. How much did you know about DeMar Hamlin before the injury?
The same amount I know about every defensive player in the NFL.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. But yeah, no, he was on the field. Don't forget, dude, they had a ton of injuries to their defense that year.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would never know that.
Yeah. They had a lot of injuries. You like bats for KC or Cleveland?
He started 13 out of 15 games last year.
Yeah. Okay, I don't believe him.
I'm just pushing back on the fourth string player thing.
He wasn't a fourth string player. No.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe he came into the season as a backup, though.
Wait, he did win comeback player of the year.
No, he didn't.
It's listed on Football Reference. It says awards, APCPOY.
No, he didn't. No, it was Geno Smith.
Okay, you're right. I don't know why I said that.
It was Geno. Even
This says
website,
awards APCPOY-12.
Nah, I mean that's wrong.
Unless it's just like a different award.
And by the way, 100% should have been Geno Smith last year.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Anyway, go ahead.
I have no idea where we are.
Kansas City and Cleveland bats.
Okay. Good spot for Cleveland against Greinke. He's not going to strike anybody out, like you said. Not a horrible pitcher. Like, he's not as bad this year as I expected him to be. I was expecting him to be hitting like Wainwright levels, but still 183 expected ISO to righties, 212 to lefties. Jose Ramirez is always going to look good. His salary also came down a little bit to 5,300. Josh Naylor at 4K looks very good. Jimenez at second base looks pretty good at 3,600. We have Cleveland right now, fourth in stack score. Keep in mind, Boston is at the top, so Cleveland's probably really going third in stack score. 5.5% chance of being the top stack, 8% ownership, relatively inexpensive. They look good here against Greinke.
Seattle and Minnesota. All right, here we go again. George Kirby, 8,700, 9% ownership right now, 10% top two probability in the top pitchers tool. Going up against Pablo Lopez. He's getting owned at 26%. Right now we have him as the fourth highest owned pitcher on the slate, but his 22% top two probability, meaning the likelihood that he is one of the top two pitchers on DraftKings where you have to roster two of them, is the highest of any pitcher on this 12-game slate. That is a very interesting spot. Yes, he is expensive, but it's a very good strikeout matchup. He's got strikeout stuff. Are you in line with this? Are you on board with this right now with Pablo Lopez?
Yeah, he looks good. Good strikeout stuff to both sides of the plate, better to righties. But the thing I like here is, like yesterday we talked about Kenta Maeda, it really being a boom or bust spot because he has good strikeout stuff. The Mariners pay a lot, but he was also allowing like a 200 plus expected ISO to righties. Most of the Mariners' best hitters are right-handed. Rodriguez, Suarez, Hernandez, all hit from the right side. Pablo Lopez has only allowed a 143 expected ISO to righties, while also striking them out nearly 33% of the time. 263 expected WOBA. Now, the Mariners do still have that power in their lineup. They are still a dangerous matchup. 102 WRC plus on their active roster, 166 ISO, but about a 25% K percentage against a pitcher with very good strikeout stuff. He hasn't given up a ton to lefties either. 146 expected ISO, 301 expected WOBA, still a 27% strikeout percentage. Lopez looks very good. 30% strikeout percentage overall this year with a 3.5 XFIP.
I'm so sorry I keep sidetracking us, but Humboldt says, what's up, Humboldt? Good to see you, man. I took some C4 pre-workout before going running, and that worked out poorly. And everyone's like, why? You have an idea. But, he said, I shit on the side of the road, down in a culvert, but off the side of the road for sure. There's no... Oh, man. I hope it wasn't messy, man. I hope it was clean enough that you could pull up or just use your boxers. That is unreal. I know that feeling. I mean, I know that feeling. If I take a pre-workout or, coffee in the morning or something, but there's no way you shit on the side. I don't care if you're in a rural area, man. You just sneak off and shit on the side of the road. Has that ever happened to you where you've run into like a dire situation and had to, not once in your life?
No.
Wow.
Not that I remember, and I'm sure I'd remember.
It happened to me as a kid. I was like at the fair with my buddy and his mom took us, and I legit just diarrheaed in my pants.
Yeah, no. I mean, like,
and I was like riding my bike home from his house afterwards, and it just like seeping out the bottom of my pants.
No, I think worst I can think of is just like being in public in general, but like somewhere with a bathroom.
Okay. Yeah. I try and avoid public restrooms. Humble.
I think most people do.
I'm sorry to hear that, brother. I'm sorry. That's rough. But it's a good story nonetheless. Do you like Kirby today at 9%? We know what type of pitcher he is. Not the most elite strikeout upside, but can pitch very deep in the games. He's super talented, high ground ball rate, 10% or 9% ownership right now.
Yeah, like I'm surprised the ownership's as low as it is, sort of. There are, other good pitching options on the slate. He's not the best strikeout pitcher. He's a good overall pitcher. 21.7% K percentage, 3.7 XFIP. But the nice thing is he doesn't walk guys. 2.3% walk percentage, by far the best on the slate. It's less than half any other pitcher on the slate. 19.4% K minus BB percentage is more in line with your good strikeout pitchers. And that does let him get deep into games. You also have a good strikeout matchup against the Twins. So I do think he's a pretty good tournament play at 9% owned, 10.5% chance of being a top 2 scoring pitcher, 8,700. So you are getting a little bit of a discount off of Burns and Charlie Morton. If you get whatever Kirby you get to, I think you should be perfectly fine with. He's just a good pitcher. He'll work deep in the games. There are strikeouts to be had in this lineup. One concern, big concern, is he has allowed a 206 expected ISO to lefties. So we are once again getting a spot where you have a good pitcher, but he has had that one weakness, and Minnesota has Julian, Kirilloff, Kepler, Wallner, Larnach that all have power, Gallo that all have power from the left side.
It's tough to get the bats here. I know it's not in Seattle, it's in Minnesota, but Kirby's look, I'm not saying that there isn't power on the other side of this one, but Kirby's still not the type of guy that you feel great stacking against. He has had a couple games where he's allowed some power, but is this a game where you mostly stay away from bats, or do you sneak in some of these hitters?
I mean, I think it's still similar to these other Minnesota-Seattle games where the pitching is where you would go to first. I know somebody in chat yesterday got super confused and upset that I had Seattle as a top 3 stack and Maeda as a top 3 pitcher. If you're just singling out one, you're going to the pitching first, but it is still a high upside spot for the other team just because of the power they have and how cheap they are. So this, Kirby versus Lopez, especially Lopez, Lopez better than Maeda, so a worse spot for Seattle today than yesterday, but you do still have a very, very cheap Seattle team where Rodriguez is the only guy in the projected lineup above 4K. And then you have an absolutely free Minnesota team. I prefer the Minnesota side because they are cheaper. They do have the better power matchup against Kirby. Kirby is a good pitcher, like I said, does struggle with left-handed power. You can make the case that, I made the case for Kirby that there's just strikeouts in the Minnesota lineup for him to pick up. The inverse of that, though, is Minnesota's a team that either hits the ball hard or they swing and miss, and Kirby doesn't get a lot of swing and miss. So it can go either way. The upside for Minnesota where, you think about it in terms of if Minnesota comes through, these guys are so cheap that you're just going to have studs everywhere else in your lineup with this Minnesota power. So I do like the ceiling they offer. It's just a low probability spot.
For sure. So like I said, just create a routine where you take a big dump in the morning. Yeah, I mean, you got to figure out it. You got to get that going. You fire one off in the morning, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that. And if it doesn't, I'm afraid to leave the house. You just know, you just know impending doom is lurking behind you. But no, yeah, you got to figure out a routine. It just doesn't always go as planned, and you can't, reschedule the rest of your day just because it doesn't. Cincinnati and Milwaukee. Cincy plus 135 at Milwaukee. 8-run total here. Andrew Abbott and Corbin Burns. Abbott pulling about 5%. Nice leverage in the top stacks tool today, or the top pitchers tool, sorry, against Burns. What's Burns' ownership right now?
40%, but it'll come down once Morton gets fixed.
Yeah, sure. 40%. Damn, 9,200. And he's turned things around. 2 good pitchers today. The park is not Cincinnati, but it's also not Seattle. It's Milwaukee. How much of these 2 9K pitchers are you getting to today, at least this morning?
Yeah, they look good. I mean, the park isn't great. The matchups are okay. Burns is the favorite here, 9,200, 18% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Again, that'll come down. The ownership will come down a little bit, but he's still going to be pretty popular. Only a 3.6 implied run total for the Reds. They have a lot of young talent. They're still not, an established major league team or anything like that. As much as people want to debate it, Elly De La Cruz has been lucky to be average so far in his major league career. He's exciting when he, actually hits the ball or gets to run the bases, but it's not a terrible spot for Burns. It's not a safe spot. They do have talent. It is a good pitcher's park, but Burns is a solid enough pitcher. Hasn't been as dominant this year as in previous years, but still a 25.5% K percentage, 3.95 xFIP. You're seeing the numbers slowly get back to where you expect them to be for Burns. So he looks good. On the other side, Abbott has kind of done his best De La Cruz impression where he's talented, but he's also gotten extremely lucky so far. So he's a good pitcher. He has a 26.8% K percentage. That's not luck. But a 2.1 ERA compared to a 4.07 FIP, 4.62 xFIP. stranding 95.5% of runners that get on base, 192 BABIP. He's gotten lucky. So you still get the strikeout upside there, and it is a good strikeout matchup against Milwaukee. It's just he's not anywhere near as good at run prevention as he has actually, as his numbers suggest so far. So 4.4 implied run total for the Brewers. The problem from a DFS standpoint, from in DFS, you generally really just care about the strikeouts. But the problem is that his salary is a 26% K guy that has a sub-3 ERA, and that's not Abbott. So you're paying, full price, kind of like with De La Cruz. He's good. There is upside, but you're fully paying for that upside.
Yeah, 208 X ISO versus righties as well for Abbott. I mean, Milwaukee strikes out at the 5th highest clip versus lefties on their active roster, but 161 ISO, 99 WRC plus. Do you think, you stack this lineup with some righties and hope that they can provide some power against Abbott, who's not even high owned, is the thing though?
Yeah, I mean, Contreras and Adames are the two that are really going to stand out. Their projected lineup right now has 8 righties plus Christian Yelich, who we know is good in general. But drastic splits for Abbott so far this year. Relatively limited sample still, but he has struck out 38.5% of the lefties that he's faced, with a 171 expected WOBA and a sub 100 expected ISO. If you're stacking the Brewers and you get Yelich, great. Wouldn't really want to be getting the Yelich as a one-off here. But righties, totally different. 23% strikeout percentage. That's fine, but it's nothing special. 323 expected WOBA is fine. 208 expected ISO is pretty high. So you have a lot of cheap righties that, certainly could just do some damage. But as far as good right-handed hitters, you're looking at Contreras and Adames.
Cubs, White Sox. Let's go, man. Unless you had any Cincy bats you wanted to hit on.
Nothing in particular. I mean, there's talent in the lineup. The pricing continues to be insane. 5,800 for De La Cruz is absurd from a median standpoint. Like, yeah, he can steal bases and hit home runs, but so can a lot of guys. You don't have to pay 5,800 for it. McClain at 5,900 is even crazier. So like against Burns, I don't really see it.
Okay, let's talk about Hendricks and Kopech then. I don't know really where to stand on someone like Michael Kopech today. He has a strikeout rate that's sitting at 25%, but also, excuse me, a 5.22 xFIP. They're 1.85 home runs per 9. So it's just kind of one of these guys. White Sox have a couple of these guys, as a matter of fact, that'll get strikeouts at a significant clip, but you're just not really finding you're not seeing any consistency here with the way he pitches outside of racking up 25% strikeouts. He is 7,100 though. It's the Cubs team that's neither great nor terrible. Do you think Kopech makes sense as a kind of contrarian low owned play today at a discount?
I think if you have a popular lineup elsewhere and you need a pitcher in that range, playing him over Savali makes some sense, just because he does have better strikeout stuff. He's got a ceiling. You can't say that, he doesn't have the same range of outcomes as Savali, but it's a worse matchup against the Cubs. 7th in WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year. It's, they're just a better offense than KC. I have no idea what to make of Kopech. Like, he started the year out really poorly, and then there was a lot of talk that he was tipping pitches and that he had fixed it, and that coincided with him stringing together a few really good starts where he was like unhittable and racking up strikeouts, and then he just went back to being terrible again. Then he got hurt. He's in his 3rd start back now, threw 38 pitches his first time back, then went 89 pitches last time. So we shouldn't be concerned about that. It's just, you have no idea what you're getting from this guy. 25% K percentage, like we mentioned, but 1.85 home runs per 9, 14% walk percentage, 5.22 xFIP. Overall, he's not very good. He just has good enough stuff and good enough strikeout stuff that he's tempting when he's 7,100 and 4% owned.
Kyle Hendricks doesn't really have much appeal here, right? Unless you're trying to chase some strikeouts, which don't really exist with Kyle Hendricks.
Kyle Hendricks hasn't had much appeal since like 2015.
I know. He's always been like a capable enough pit.
Even when he was good, I never played him because I didn't. Even when he was good, I never really played him because I didn't believe he was good.
Do you like White Sox bats? Or, as a matter of fact, we talk about Kopech, but do you like any Cubs bats here against the guy who has had? You're right. He just had such a weird stretch where he was dominating. And of course, he had some easy matchups like Kansas City. Cleveland, he went 7 scoreless, but 9 strikeouts against a team that doesn't K much. Detroit. So there were some easy matchups mixed in there along the way when he had that great stretch until reverting back to what we've seen at the beginning of the year. Power has been an issue, though. He's had multiple games, 4 or 5 games with 2+ home runs allowed, several with like 4+. Do we like the Cubs bats today?
They're kind of just like the same as Kopech in that the ceiling is really high. I don't really know how likely they are to succeed. We do have them as the highest owned team on the slate. That seems a bit aggressive to me. They have a 4.5 implied run total, so I don't know why that would be the case. They are really cheap, so there's that. We have them third in top stack percentage. We have them 5th or 4th if you exclude Boston in stack score. They look pretty good. Kopech gets strikeouts and he gives up home runs. So especially when the opposing team is cheap, they are going to look good. On a side note, Cody Bellinger this year, like he's having a solid season. You see him talked about a lot. Like he's bounced back. His expected numbers are awful. 353 actual WOBA, 189 actual ISO against righties this year. 314 expected WOBA and a 136 expected ISO. So that one's kind of interesting. Another guy where I think people are. I love Cody Bellinger, but seems like people are a little more excited about him than they should be. In this spot, though, happy to get to him against Kopech. Almost everybody else is pretty cheap. Horner's at 4,800, but Mike Tauchman probably leading off at 3,300. Happ is 3,400. Suzuki 3,200. There's a lot of upside in this lineup against Kopech.
I'll tell you what hasn't been awful. The MLB lineup generator and the MLB Sims tool. We had a bunch of new screenshots yesterday, and then more of them rolled in again today and yesterday, last night. They're just flowing, man. And we're talking about a tool that for the first week is $4.48. I mean, you got to be scratching your head going, why haven't I tried this yet? Worst case scenario, at the end of the week, I don't like it, and I'm down $4.48. We got another one from Kennedy Mathis. Said lineup generator pays for itself. $1,000, third place in the Mega Mini Max. There you go. You just paid it off for how long? Didn't just pay for itself, dude. It paid off for quite some time. You had Marvin Mayo, $1,000, first place in the 10K solo shot. First win using the MLB lineup generator. Thanks, guys. Dude, there's something for essentially anybody here. And the Sims tool, look, the Sims tool is not $4.48 a week. Not going to sugarcoat it. Adam and I are going to go over the pre-contest Sims in a minute here once we close out these games. But it's, more expensive for a reason. It's been crushing. Elway's Army took down 20K with it. Schaefer took down 2,500 with it. Our own Jake Hari, who hasn't played baseball. I don't think he's been played DFS baseball in forever. Adam mentioned that he used the Sims tool and $8,200 in the Mega Mini Max and the 4-seamer. Like, these are not big, 555 to enter. We're talking, I don't know, you look at all these Mini Max, Mega Mini Max, $5,000, 4-seamer, $4 to enter, $3,000. If you want to find an easy way to get lineups, it'll create the lineups. It spits all the bad ones out. The lineup generator is $4.48 for the first week. You can set your stack types. You can set the type of lineups you want. You can see how chalky or contrarian every lineup is. You can see the optimal projection for all of them. Remember, we're running thousands of simulated lineups behind the scenes and just getting rid of the bad ones. And then you're getting these. You can save the ones you like, upload them straight to CSV. It's also optimized for mobile. Or discard the ones you don't like and keep it running until you find a set of lineups that you really like. But don't go too crazy swapping players and locking players in. Let the tool do the work for you, and you're going to be building better lineups than you were. And if you're really looking to dig in, like I said, the MLB lineup simulator, an amazing tool. Stick around till the end of the show. We'll do the demo on that. Look at the pre-contest. That's in the description as well. So depending on where you are with the bankroll, how much you play, one of these is for you, no question. Whether it's $4.48 or you're looking to spend more and really dig deep into this and try and make something of it, the lineup simulator is out there as well. Links to everything in the description. And as I mentioned earlier, 50% off all of our tools, all of our packages. If you wanted to get in on that as well, get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. If you ever have questions, I know it can be a lot. My DMs are open at Laffy_D. All right, let's talk about this next game, Adam. You've got the Texas Rangers, Houston Astros. I think, we got JP France for Texas. I don't know if do we have anyone confirmed yet or for Houston? Sorry. Do we have anyone confirmed yet for Texas? We didn't earlier.
I see Owen White listed. I don't know if that's confirmed.
Okay. All right.
The DraftKings blurb from Monday says, or Sunday says, Owen White recalled from AAA. With the Rangers opting to skip Nathan Eovaldi's turn through the rotation Tuesday against Houston, White or Cody Bradford could be candidates to serve as a spot starter or multi-inning option out of the bullpen that day.
Okay, we have Cody Bradford currently listed. I saw DraftKings had that as a probable, but what do we know? So we won't talk about pitching on that side. Not that I think we'd want to begin with.
Yeah, it shouldn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. What about JP France on the other side?
Tough matchup for him against Texas. This is another game we don't have a line right now, so data's probably going to be a little bit wonky. We have Texas with a 4.5% chance of being the top stack, 5% ownership. Certainly could change with a line. France is a really weird pitcher. He's given up no power to lefties this year. He's only struck lefties out 20% of the time, but sub 100 expected ISO, 259 expected WOBA. Righties have lit him up. 249 expected ISO, 371 expected WOBA, only a 14.5% strikeout percentage. Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, Ezekiel Duran really stand out here as being in a good spot against him.
I guess there's not a ton we can talk about with this game right now. I suppose other than maybe Houston bats and guessing what we're going to get for Texas on the mound.
Yeah, this is another one. So we have Houston second to last in stack score. That's not going to happen. They're facing either Cody Bradford or Owen White. They're just going to be better than that. So Houston's going to look pretty good. It's just, who are they facing? They could have Yordan Alvarez back today, which obviously would make them look a lot better. Could be activated today or tomorrow. So if Alvarez is back, Houston looks a lot better. He is only 5K, so that's noteworthy. Like Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman are both super expensive. Tucker at 6,300, Bregman at 6K. If Alvarez is back in this lineup at 5K against either Owen White or Cody Bradford, he's one of the best plays on the slate.
Let's talk about Rich Hill and Blake Snell. Pittsburgh huge dogs plus 230 on the road against the San Diego Padres. Padres right now, Pirates 3.5 run implied total. Blake Snell showing up with the second highest top two pitcher probability at 21% in the top pitcher tool, 35% ownership. Meanwhile, 5.2 implied total for the Padres going against Rich Hill, who's cheap, but getting no ownership for pretty good reason. Also facing some talented players and some talented righties on the other side of this game. What are we doing with Blake Snell? And then feel free to just dive straight into these San Diego bats.
Yeah, I mean, Snell looks great. Obviously, the Pirates came through against Darvish yesterday. It's baseball. It happens. But you're getting another pitcher in a really good spot. Right now, we have Snell projected to be the second highest owned pitcher on the slate behind Burns. I expect him to end up being more popular than Burns. He's 800 more, but he's facing Pittsburgh in San Diego as opposed to Cincinnati in Milwaukee. Snell started off the year slowly. We talk about it a lot that, generally, yes, some guys do just kind of fall off a cliff at some point. Like you have to have you have to have your first bad season at some point if you're just at the back end of your career. But somebody like Snell that isn't at that point yet, they're just going to end up getting to what they normally do. And that's what we've seen with Snell, who now has a 31.6% K percentage for the year. 13% walk percentage is high, but that's what he does. 3.5 xFIP. He's a really good pitcher, really good strikeout pitcher, good matchup against the Pirates in a good park. Lowest implied run total on the slate. 22.8% K percentage for the Pirates against the Pirates active roster against left-handed pitching since the start of last year. 24th in the WRC plus. Blake Snell looks great. And Rich Hill does not.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Rich Hill. I mean,
Rich Hill, like he's 6,100. He's a starting pitcher. He's not a total gas can somehow at this point in his career. He's still striking out like 19% of hitters, 4.7 xFIP, below average pitcher, but not total garbage. But facing the Padres on a slate where you have plenty of other good pitching and plenty of hitter value you can use, I don't really see a reason to be getting to Hill.
Yeah, and one of the issues here is clearly going to be right-handed hitting.
Right.
220x ISO against righties this season. On the year, he's allowing 1.3 home runs per nine. Again, it's not as bad as some of the guys that we talk about from day to day. 19.8% K rate, 4.61 xFIP. Yeah, he's bad, but he's somehow managed to not be terrible. Like, he's still serviceable, but this is not the easiest spot for him either.
Yeah, and you're just walking in the right-handed power here. Ha-Seong Kim coming off of a 2-home run game last night. Not that you're expecting that again, and it sucked last night. On the night slate, the Pirates were my highest owned stack. I was under the field on Darvish. Pirates score 1 million runs against Darvish, and 35% on Kim, hits 2 home runs. So I still pretty much can't win. But you have him. You have Tatis, who's great. I assume he'll be one of my highest owned hitters today at 6,500. Machado at 54 looks good. Bogarts looks good. Sanchez is only 3,500. Plenty of right-handed power in this lineup to get to against Hill. The only downside is the park, but Padres look good.
See, St. Louis and Arizona. St. Louis plus 115 today. 9-run total. In Arizona. So you've got Steven Matz, Merrill Kelly, pulling up the top pitchers tool here just to see how these guys look. Merrill Kelly about 7% owned, almost 9% top play 2 probability. He's in the same ballpark there as like 10 other pitchers. It's pretty flat once you get below Pablo Lopez, Blake Snell, Corbin Burns. Maybe you want to say Alex Cobb at 13%. Go for it. Steven Matz, 2% owned, 4.6% top 2 probability here. He's cheap at 6,300, but clearly not a great matchup, specifically not a great strikeout matchup. Do you get to Merrill Kelly here, or do you get to any Steven Matz?
Probably not much. Matz is underpriced for his talent level. 22% K percentage, 3.94 xFIP this year at 6,300. I just don't know how much you really need that salary today. And it's not like it's a good matchup against Arizona. So 2% ownership, 5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 13% chance of being a top 2 value. He's kind of like Trevor Williams. He's a better pitcher than Williams, but has the worst matchup of the two. If you need to get to that price range, fine, but you probably just won't need to all that much. On the other side, Merrill Kelly getting 7%. He's 9K. He has been very good this year. You've seen an uptick in his strikeout numbers. Now they are starting to come down a bit. He was at like 27.5% for a while. He's down to 25.5. Sort of, the opposite of Blake Snell. Like guys can certainly improve their strikeout stuff, and it is more likely just given the access to technology that pitchers have now. When you see a pitcher that's been, like a 21, 22% K guy, and then he's just striking guys out at 27%, it's more likely that there's something real there than when you see the inverse. But still, you expect them to kind of come back to earth. And we have seen that a little bit from Kelly. Not a great strikeout matchup here, but you do have a potentially watered down St. Louis lineup. They're dealing with like 3 different day-to-day guys: Contreras, Nootbaar, and Gorman. Nootbaar played yesterday. Contreras and Gorman did not. So there is a chance that you get a watered down St. Louis lineup against Kelly. He's getting 7% ownership. He's fine. He's a guy where, you can use him for the ceiling where you have more popular bats, but where you don't, you're probably going to just get somebody that projects a little bit better.
Jaylen Brown just got the richest contract in NBA history.
Jaylen Brown?
Yeah.
That's
$304 million across 5 years, supermax extension.
That's interesting.
$304 million. Damn.
That's got to be an amazing feeling.
Can't be. I
cannot imagine the dumb shit that I would immediately do.
Yeah, you've done that dumb shit with a lot less than
right. Exactly.
Million. You like bats on either side of this game?
Sort of. I like the talent. I don't really like the matchups. Arizona is where I would go first, but they are expensive, at least at the top with Marte, Carroll, Gurriel, and Walker. Then it does drop off. But I do prefer them against righties just because Corbin Carroll is left-handed and he's arguably their best player. Matt's this year 108 expected ISO to lefties, 139 to righties. Doesn't give up a lot of power. If you're going here, I think it's just because these guys are good. They have stolen base upside. They do have power. On the other side, Kelly, 163 expected ISO to lefties, 143 to righties. Again, not a bad pitcher. There is power on the Cardinals, but neither offense stands out from a matchup standpoint. Right now, we have St. Louis with a 4% chance of being the top stack, 1% ownership. Again, we don't know what that lineup's going to look like either. Arizona, 4.5% chance of being the top stack, 3% ownership.
2 games to go. And hey, by the way, guys, if you're still not over on the Sleeper app yet for the Pick'em format with the dynamic payouts where, unlike all the other Pick'em sites where it's just standard props, Sleeper's got the dynamic pricing, which means that you can take home runs, you can take stolen bases, you can take doubles, you can take triples, you can 100x your entry. When football season rolls around, it's going to be sweet, especially for those of you guys in non-legal betting states looking to scratch that itch. You're going to have like touchdown scores, but not just for the Derrick Henrys. You're going to have touchdown. You really like a guy, you're going to get touchdown scoring props over there where you're just taking the over or the under, the higher or the lower, and throwing it into a card up to 8 legs, 2 to 8 legs, doesn't matter however many you want to play. You're going to have the opportunity. Like, we're going to have so many cool ways to play NFL on Sleeper that other pick'em sites aren't offering because they don't have the dynamic pricing. They're essentially just attaching odds to it as any traditional sports book would do, but they're doing it with multipliers instead. It makes a lot of sense. It's awesome. And you're getting a first match deposit bonus, 100% up to $100. So you're immediately out of the gate making money. You're doubling your deposit out of the gate when you sign up over there using the link in the description or the one in the chat if you're looking to get in on it and get some free money and start playing. If you're already on Sleeper and you play fantasy there, it doesn't matter. This is separate. So you could still use the link, sign up, deposit on Sleeper, okay, and still get the full 100% first match deposit bonus up to $100. So don't think that just because you're on Sleeper for fantasy or dynasty leagues that this doesn't apply to you. It does. So check out the pick'em, check that link out, get over there. They've really revolutionized the way the format works. So now you don't have to just play the standard, higher or lower than anything that's like minus 120 on a traditional book. It's pretty cool. And I think you'll love it, especially given the fact that you can 100x your entries if you're looking to get a little frisky from time to time. Check out Sleeper though. You know where to find it. Use that link, get that first match deposit, 100% up to $100. Neither can I, Toga. I cannot wait till NFL starts either. Eitan and I just did a video. I threw it up on Twitter, 5 futures in 5 minutes, which actually took 20 minutes, but leave it to me to get off on some tangents. Oakland, San Francisco. Oakland, another huge dog here, plus 210. Ken Waldichuk and Alex Cobb. Cobb getting some ownership. I don't anticipate you wanting to spend a ton of time on Waldichuk. But what do you make of Cobb today in this good matchup against the A's?
I don't really know how you don't like Cobb here. He's in San Francisco. He's got about as good a matchup as you can get going up against Oakland. 21% strikeout percentage isn't great, but 3.42 xFIP, and he's only 7,600. He just looks like a good mid-range pitcher. We talked about Savali getting ownership in this range. Cobb's getting a little bit more at about 29%. Again, it's baseball. Like, there's no guarantee he pitches well, but it's about as good a spot as you're going to get. It's a good price tag. It's a good pitcher. He's 4th in top 2 pitcher percentage. He's third in top 2 value percentage, but the pitchers ahead of him are Pivetta against the Braves, which that line could also just end up being wrong, and Waldichuk because he is $5,200. It's not, a good pitcher by any stretch. So Cobb looks like one of the better pitching plays.
He definitely does at that price point too. I mean, 7,600. Looking at the other mid-range options, where would you stack him up against? And obviously with ownership factored in, we'll take a look at the Sims tool in just a minute and see how this spits these guys out with the simulated ROI on them. But, Savali basically the same price, getting a lot of ownership. Cobb getting 29% ownership. Kopech getting 4% at 7,100. Chris Bassett, we'll talk about him next, getting no ownership against the Dodgers at 7,500. Just curious where you stand. To probably help the viewers too on some of these mid-range guys if they end up in that territory and aren't looking to go chalky, or maybe you just say go chalky and get different elsewhere.
I mean, the chalky guys are the ones I prefer. It all comes down to what the rest of your lineup looks like. If you're getting, and on a slate of this size, where you have 24 offenses to choose from, generally you're going to be able to pretty easily make lineups where you have low enough owned hitters in the aggregate that you don't have to worry about it too much at pitcher. So Cobb is the guy that I prefer the most, followed by Savali. I think the field has it right there. If you're looking in a lineup to get away from that ownership, I think Kopech is the first guy in that range I'd go to just because the strikeout stuff is good. He is the highest top 2 pitcher percentage in that range after Savali and Cobb, but mostly I would expect to just be getting a good amount of Cobb and Savali.
Okay. What about San Francisco bats in this game? Waldichuk, dude, 299 x ISO against lefties, 407 x WOBA. Against righties, it's not quite as bad. 170 x ISO, 333 x WOBA. How do you approach a spot like this, especially knowing that you've got a lefty on the mound who has really struggled, especially from expected numbers and in general against same-handed bats?
Yeah, the only two negatives here are the park is not good for home runs, and you do get pinch hit risk from the Giants, particularly when they're facing left-handed pitching. Austin Slater will probably lead off. He's going to project as a good value, but if this game is competitive, you're probably not going to see him in at the end of the game. If they do light up Waldichuk, maybe they don't bother pinch hitting. But outside of that, Wilmer Flores probably will just play the entire game. JD Davis probably plays the entire game. Whatever lefties are in the starting lineup, you don't really have to worry about them being pinch hit for. So probably Yastrzemski, Conforto, Patrick Bailey, if he's catching, is a high upside option. So they're going to look good. It's just you do need to pay attention to the guys that are more likely to be pinch hit for. Right now, excluding Boston, we have them first in stack score, 5.5% chance of being the top stack, 10.5% top value percentage, about a 5.1 implied run total in San Francisco. 170 expected ISO to righties for Waldichuk isn't terrible. 338 expected WOBA, also not terrible. But you do just have a lot of cheap power for the Giants.
We'll wrap it up with Toronto and the Dodgers. One last request, hit that thumbs up. Unlikely that we pull 21 likes to get to 100 by the end of this show, but if you're one of those people that just simply forgot, subtle reminder, atone for your sins here on the MLB Strategy Show. Much appreciated, and believe it or not, it helps us a lot with the algorithm here on YouTube. Keep it simple. Any interest in Chris Bassett?
Not really. He's another potential pivot in that price range. If you didn't want to go to Savali or Cobb, I would go to Kopech first, just because the Cubs aren't the Dodgers, and the Kopech does have better strikeout stuff than Bassett. Bassett this year at 21.8% K percentage, 4.37 xFIP. So he's been better in terms of run prevention than Kopech, but Kopech gives you the strikeout upside, and he has the better matchup if you're trying to get to a low owned pitcher in that range.
Urias is 9,600. I think that's kind of prohibitive. Man, he got absolutely rocked by your Baltimore Orioles last time out. He's had a stretch of strange games, like great start, 2 negative fantasy starts, 2 great starts, another negative, really been all over the map. Striking batters out at 23%. He's got a 4.26 xFIP, 1.79 home runs per 9. Like I said, he really has been all over the map this season. But if you're paying for him today, I don't really see how you're doing it outside of anything but trying to get as contrarian as humanly possible at 9,600, especially when you have Snell against Pittsburgh, Pablo Lopez against Seattle, Corbin Burns you could throw into the mix against Cincinnati, and a litany of other guys that I didn't even touch on. Yeah,
it's really tough. He doesn't project close enough to those top end guys for that to be an approach I really want to take. We have him at 15.3 DraftKings points, which is okay. But you look at the pitchers ahead of him, not only, is Lopez ahead of him and Snell and Burns are ahead of him, but Cobb is ahead of him. Savali's ahead of him. Kirby, Abbott, like those guys are all ahead of him as well. So you have cheaper pitchers ahead of him. You have low-ish owned pitchers in Kirby and Abbott also slightly ahead of him. It's just really tough to get to him in a tough strikeout spot against the Blue Jays. He's a good pitcher. He's not great. And 23% strikeout percentage, 4.26 xFIP this year. Tons of right-handed power on Toronto. Righties this year striking out 21.9% of the time. Only a 292 expected WOBA. Again, he's not a bad pitcher, but really tough to make a case for getting him at that price tag on this slate.
Any bats here from either side? 2 good offenses, but 2 pitchers that aren't exactly just likely to implode every time they go out there.
Yeah, 2 good offenses. Definitely prefer the Dodgers side. 220 expected ISO allowed to lefties for Bassett this year. 353 expected WOBA. Righties have not been as productive. 123 x WOBA, 123 expected ISO, 300 expected WOBA. But Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy in particular actually look pretty good. Clearly, Betts, Smith, Martinez are good plays. And then you do get some left-handed value towards the bottom with Peralta, Hayward, Outman, some combination of those guys, if not all of them, probably being in the lineup. So the Dodgers are kind of interesting. They still have a 4.9 implied run total here. It is a good home run park. Josh and I talked about it yesterday. For whatever reason, people in general, and also me specifically, don't think of Dodger Stadium as a really good home run park. But over the last 3 years, it's third in home run park factor. The parks around it are, the ones that you think of as being up there. Actually, now it's second, not third. Reds are first. Yankee Stadium is third. Angel Stadium is fourth. Chicago White Sox is fifth. Dodgers are second. Like, it's a good home run park. So I do like the tournament upside.
All right, there we go. 12 up, 12 down. By the way, I hope you guys are rocking the stochastic avatar on DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever it is you play. You wouldn't want to have a win where you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and maybe it's only like a $80 win because you're playing in a smaller, lower dollar contest. You wouldn't want to miss out on a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. I mean, it's $120 value. It's all of our tools, including our premium Discord for the whole month. And yours truly inducts you into the Hall of Fame, where you can gather friends and family around and say, look what I've done. Why would you not want to do that? But for real, stochastic.com/avatar, just use the link. Rock that avatar. So when the big one does happen, those screenshots are flowing and we're throwing you up here and giving you a free month of everything on the site. All right. Let's take a look at the Sims before we get out of here, Adam. You guys already mentioned you want to check it out. You want to follow along. You want to use this tool, incorporate it into your process, take your game to the next level. Link is in the description. But even if you're not, we're taking a look at it now for those of you who are not, who don't have access to it. Let's make it happen, Jordan. We did it yesterday. Time to see where we end up here. And we can you throw that up on the screen and we can go to work. Wait, refreshed. All right. Well, we'll get there in a second. Yeah, Kevin O, where's the 100 likes? We're 7 away. We'll get there. There's 7 people out there who will be more than willing to do us that generous service of getting us to 100 likes while we sit here and wait, Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan didn't ruin his internet today, but asking him to run a Sims tool is just too much.
Go on, man. And obviously these take a while to run because you're simulating thousands of lineups.
They don't normally take this long, though. I think Jordan's computer might be broke.
It might be. It might be. Yeah, usually they take like, what, a minute or so to
tops
to complete. Yeah,
30 seconds to a minute.
But we'll get there. We go. All right, let's do this. Let me pin that to the screen. See what we get here. All right, Adam. So,
God, it's so hard to see this.
I know. Well, we can actually go to the look on YouTube because on YouTube it's clear.
Yeah, but isn't it delayed?
Yeah, a little bit, but
yeah.
we can go back.
It's still pretty blurry, but it's better.
Yeah. Okay. So San Francisco 5-man stack is at the top. If you were to sort by Sim ROI, Dodgers 5-man, Cleveland 5-man, Cubs, San Francisco. Interesting.
Keep in mind we have wonky data on the Red Sox game right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's going to make a big difference. Let's just see. Let's go to stack ROI for a second and see where we come up.
I just mentioned that because Pavetta is in every lineup at the top right now.
Is he really? Oh yeah, that's gonna make it difficult. San Francisco's up there though. Milwaukee's up there. Then it all kind of goes negative. You got Oakland, Washington, and you're going to see a lot of like underwhelming stacks, right? Just because oftentimes those are the ones that are positively leveraged.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to explain, but like the stack ROI, it's just like, I don't really know how to explain it. It's not like if it has a negative ROI, it doesn't mean it's a bad stack necessarily. Like it's because most lineups are going to be negative ROI.
Right. And then go to player ROI for a second. So I assume Pavetta is going to be at the top. Yeah,
probably.
And that's just because we didn't have a line when this started. This will all change. Charlie Morton for Atlanta being another one. Go to pitchers, Jordan. I just want to, I guess it won't help us, Adam, right? Without the line on that Boston.
Yeah. I mean, select the top 150 and just see what the individual exposures look like.
Yeah, go for it.
From oh, never mind. I forgot I was watching on YouTube.
Pablo Lopez. What's the exposure there? 33%.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Lopez. Oh, we don't have projected ownership in. Lopez 33% makes sense. San Francisco, Pavetta, you can kind of ignore right now. Burns, Snell, both make sense.
Yeah, it's just everything changes once that line comes in and Pavetta gets dropped down considerably.
Yeah, like looking at this right now, I would just ignore the Boston game because that stuff's all going to change. But other than that, you're seeing the best pitchers show up at the top, pretty much give or take in line with what the field's doing. Nothing, too surprising that stands out there. Flores is a good value play, 32%. It's a lot, but he's one of the better values. Slater is a little concerning just because of the pinch hit risk, but again, a good value there. Probably getting to a lot of San Francisco stacks in general.
Does anything stand out to you with stacks outside of San Francisco with what we've got?
I don't know. I can't see him.
Yeah, well, it was my cue for Jordan to go over there.
Yeah. No, go back to exposures and go to stack exposure. Top right.
And okay, so that, yes.
Yeah, so San Francisco makes sense. I mean, that's a lot, but they do make sense. We're ignoring Boston for right now. Milwaukee against Abbott, no problems there. I know we had Contreras individually showing up quite a bit. Cleveland looked good. Cubs looked good. Texas I liked. Mets we liked. Yeah, stacks look good.
Yeah, looks good. Hey, follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Laffy_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this one. We'll see you back here bright and early tomorrow morning on the MLB Strategy Show. And of course, tonight, Deeper Dive Live Before Lock, all of that stuff right here on the Stochastic channel. Don't forget, Odd Shopper channel, Fantasy Football channel. We got you covered on all fronts. Best ball, whatever it is, don't go anywhere else. And we'll see you back here tonight. Peace.